His wealth and status made him
Would you
untouchable.
like another glass
The
of wine,
waitress
sir?
moved with steady grace, her face calm as she collected empty glasses and replaced them with full ones. Her breathing was even, her steps precise, as though the mocking words bounced off her. Yet behind her eyes, something steady began to glow. Every word he spoke, every insult hidden behind that foreign tongue, she understood completely. She set down another glass, her fingers brushing the polished tablecloth. Her hands no longer trembled. Instead, there was a quiet certainty in her touch, a strength in the way she stood tall, despite the laughter that circled around her. It was not the silence of defeat, but the silence of someone waiting for the right moment. Around the room, whispers grew. A few guests muttered under their breath that this had gone too far. They shifted uncomfortably in their seats, glancing at one another, but none had the courage to speak against him. He controlled contracts, businesses, futures. To challenge him meant risk. The CEO, emboldened by the silence, spoke louder, his words rolling off his tongue with mocking ease. But each syllable landed differently for her. They were no longer insults but opportunities. She held her composure like a shield, but beneath it, her inner strength flickered brighter. She knew the truth. With a single sentence, she could shatter the illusion of his power. The question lingered in the air like a storm about to break. Who holds real power? The one speaking loudly or the one who chooses silence? The CEO's voice rose above the gentle hum of clinking glasses and soft music. He exaggerated every movement she made, his arms flailing as he spoke in Japanese, twisting common phrases into insults. His audience chuckled, some openly, others with tight, uneasy smiles. But he was not finished. He leaned forward, repeating a cruel phrase. Slower this time, as if to savor the humiliation. The waitress steadied her breathing, her chest rising and falling in controlled rhythm. Each word cut at her dignity, but she refused to let her face betray the sting. She carried the tray with precision, placing glasses before guests who avoided her eyes, ashamed of their silence. Her steps remained graceful, but inside her heart burned hotter with every passing insult. Staff members standing near the edges of the hall exchanged nervous glances. They had worked with her long enough to know she was not ordinary. Something in her posture, in the way she carried herself, hinted at a strength far beyond her role here. They whispered among themselves, uncertain but sensing that something was about to shift. The room itself seemed to change. The laughter grew thinner, less natural, as if the air had turned heavier. Guests glanced at one another, the unease spreading like a shadow across the hall. Some shifted in their chairs, uncomfortable with the cruelty unfolding before them, yet too cautious to speak against a man of such power. The CEO leaned back in his chair, his smug smile widening as he surveyed the room. He believed he had secured control, that his mockery had set him above everyone else, untouchable and adored. His arrogance filled every corner of the hall. But beneath the silence, something stronger was building. The waitress stood firm, her back straight, her eyes lowered but steady. Her silence was no longer a shield. It was a storm gathering strength. They thought she was powerless, yet the silence before a storm is always the most dangerous of all. The CEO leaned forward once again, his voice dripping with arrogance as he let out another mocking phrase in Japanese. His smirk widened, convinced the joke was his final triumph. Laughter scattered weakly across the table, but even those laughs carried less conviction than before. The night had reached its cruel peak. The waitress stopped mid-step slowly. With deliberate care, she placed the tray of glasses on the nearest table. The crystal barely rattled as she let go, her movements precise and composed. For the first time, she raised her head and locked her eyes on him, calm, unflinching. Her gaze pierced through the room with quiet authority. Silence fell instantly. Every sound seemed to disappear. The laughter, the whispers, even the clinking of cutlery. Guests shifted uneasily, sensing the balance of power shifting before their eyes. She did not need to speak yet. The stillness in her expression carried more weight than the CEO's endless words. Then her voice came, sharp and steady. In flawless Japanese, every syllable flowed with elegance and precision. She repeated his insult, then dismantled it word by word, turning it back on him with chilling clarity. Her tone carried no anger, only control, a mastery that silenced the room and demanded respect. Gasps filled the hall. Glasses froze halfway to lips. Eyes widened in disbelief. Executives leaned forward, stunned, unable to process what they were hearing. The young waitress, The woman he mocked as insignificant was speaking with the fluency of a scholar, the confidence of someone who owned the very language he thought belonged only to him. The CEO froze, his smirk vanished, his skin drained of color. For the first time all evening, he had no words. His arrogance collapsed under the weight of truth. He realized too late that every insult had been understood, every cruelty witnessed. The silence pressed down heavier than any laughter. What happens when the mask of arrogance is ripped away in front of the entire world? Her voice did not falter. With flawless Japanese, she continued, each sentence sharper than the last, dismantling his words with calm precision. She took every insult he had thrown, reshaped it, and handed it back to him with elegance and dignity. There was no anger in her tone, only truth, delivered with the authority of someone who had been underestimated for far too long. Then she turned to the room. Switching seamlessly into English, she translated his exact words, exposing them one by one. The cruelty that had once been hidden behind the veil of another language now rang clear for everyone to hear. The hall filled with uneasy murmurs, disbelief spreading like fire through the crowd. She lifted her chin slightly, her expression unwavering. Her voice grew steady, resonant, carrying across the marble and chandeliers. Respect is not measured by wealth or power, but by how you treat those who serve you. The statement struck like a blade. Guests shifted uncomfortably, some lowering their eyes, others raising their heads with quiet admiration. A ripple of applause began at the far end of the room, hesitant but strong. It spread, growing louder as more hands came together. Some guests nodded firmly, their respect evident. The CEO's colleagues, once eager to laugh at his cruelty, now turned away in shame. Not one dared to meet his eyes. The power he thought he held crumbled in seconds. His smirk was gone, replaced with a hollow silence. His shoulders sank. He stared down at the polished floor, unable to lift his gaze, unable to speak. Every ounce of arrogance had drained from him, leaving only humiliation in its place. The woman he tried to belittle had just destroyed him, not with anger, but with dignity. In that moment, the entire hall knew the truth. The room no longer belonged to him. It belonged to her. The banquet regained its rhythm, but the energy in the hall was no longer the same. The waitress carried her tray with quiet strength, every step radiating poise. Her head was held high, her dignity untouched, and suddenly the room that once ignored her could not stop watching. Guests approached her one by one, some offering apologies, others speaking words of deep respect. A few lowered their eyes, humbled by the courage she revealed. The CEO, stripped of his arrogance, left the room without a word, the silence heavier than any insult he had thrown. What remained was a powerful truth. Status fades, but character endures. Justice had spoken that night. But if arrogance like this unfolded before your eyes, would you step in or wait for someone else to rise?